IVPA के। सर स्वागत है आपका। सर सबसे पहले बात स्टॉक लिमिट की, जो समय सीमा खत्म हो रही थी 2022 31 दिसंबर 2022 को, सरकार ने उसे बढ़ाने का फैसला नहीं किया है, इससे कितना फायदा होगा?
देखिए, ये अच्छा कदम है। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल सबको मुबारक है क्रिसमस का और नया साल का। स्टॉक कंट्रोल के बारे में हम लिख रहे थे एज IVPA टू से दैट इट इज कॉजिंग 2-3 टाइप्स ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स। नंबर 1, होलसेल डीलर का जिसका 50 टन का सेल है उससे ज्यादा वो नहीं रख पा रहा था, और जब ग्लोबल सिचुएशन सप्लाई चेन वल्नरेबल है, इट इज एक्चुअली नेसेसरी टू फिल अप द होल स्टॉक। सो डीलर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन नेटवर्क के लिए हम पूछ रहे थे कि स्टॉक लिमिट इज वेरी लेस given the global uncertainties. Number 2, oil seeds के लिए we were saying that when the crops are big, like the soybean crop right now, और आगे जाके अप्रैल में मार्च में we are expecting very good mustard crop, 10% higher than last year. So at that time, if the stock control limit is there, then the millers, of course, producers can buy for 1 month. That was already allowed. But for the traders and dealers, it is very tough. We also need them to participate in the market at the time of harvest. So from both the angles, that is the supply chain angle into the distribution, and also from the oil seeds point of view, crop harvesting and sell off point of view, smooth चलाने के लिए stock control limit हटाना बहुत जरूरी था at the right time. This step was taken when the prices were supposed to be very, very high. All that is past. Now it is no longer true. So we welcome this step of making it liberal stocking pattern, which will help not only the distributors, dealers, players, but all the captive users, big horeca manufacturers, everybody. Thank you for this.
यानी एक बेहतर पॉलिसी सप्लाई के लिहाज से भी, सप्लाई चेन के लिहाज से भी स्टॉक लिमिट हटाने की जरूरत थी। आपको बता दें कि 2021 में, मुझे जहां तक याद है, अक्टूबर 2021 में सर इसे लगाया गया था स्टॉक लिमिट को, ना सर?
हाँ।
चलिए, एक अहम कदम इनको इसे मान रहे हैं IVPA के प्रेसिडेंट। सर अब सवाल होगा फ्री इंपोर्ट पॉलिसी जो जारी रखने का फैसला हुआ है RBD पाम तेल को लेकर, वो घरेलू रिफाइनिंग कंपनी के लिए कितना बड़ा सेटबैक है? क्योंकि आप लोगों की तरफ से, सी की तरफ से और IVPA की तरफ से हमेशा से मांग होती रही है कि क्रूड पाम तेल और रिफाइंड पाम तेल में जो ड्यूटी डिफरेंस है उसे बढ़ाया जाए। अगर उसे हम पाबंदी नहीं भी लगाते हैं, अगर रिस्ट्रिक्टेड कैटेगरी में नहीं भी डालते हैं RBD पाम तेल की इंपोर्ट को, लेकिन ड्यूटी डिफरेंस इतना होना चाहिए कि घरेलू जो रिफाइनिंग कंपनियां हैं, घरेलू जो रिफाइनिंग इंडस्ट्री है, उसे नुकसान नहीं हो। उस लिहाज से ये किस तरह का, इस कदम को कैसे आप देखते हैं और आप लोगों की डिमांड अब क्या है?
आपने अच्छा समझा है कि वही प्रॉब्लम है। बेसिकली इंडियन रिफाइनरीज which are under capacity utilized want the capacity utilization in India. Palm oil, we are importing about 12-13 lakh tons. So far, about 20% of that, मतलब 2-2.5 lakh ton refined oil आ रहा था, which is at the cost of the capacity utilization in India. There are two problems. One is the capacity utilization, and second is the margin injury. I'll explain the second one in a minute. Today, as of today, the moment the Indian government has relaxed the refined oil imports or extended the importation of refined palm oil, for example, about 60-70,000 tons got traded about $30-40 cheaper. मतलब CPO का दाम यदि आज के दिन में $1,010 C&F India, the refined product is available at $980. So, given the duty structure, current duty structure, the landed cost of palmolin is about 4 to 5 rupees cheaper. जिसमें ट्रेडर, जो इंपोर्टिंग ट्रेडर है, वो 2-3 रुपए उसमें रख लेगा, तो अल्टीमेटली कंज्यूमर के लिए ज्यादा फायदा कुछ होगा नहीं. But we will be compelled as the Indian manufacturers to convert our crude oil imports into refined oil or just become a packer. So this move is enabling the refining abroad in Indonesia and Malaysia than in India. So I think as far as the stable duty policy is concerned, of course the government can change whenever they want. So they've extended the current duty structure. But our demand with the government would be to explain all these facts and figures and say why olein imports should be restricted by way of higher duties. My worry is that in case the refined oil is freely imported like this and India starts buying let us say 3-4 lakh tons, which is 40% of imports, like happened in the past, when actually prohibition on refined oil was brought in, thankfully at that time by the government. In case that doesn't happen, I expect the exporting countries, especially Indonesia, to make the differential even lower, because Indonesia wants to convert all their CPO exports to refined oil exports, whereas India wants to import only the crude form to protect the domestic industry, in which there are a lot of investments made, a lot of employment is there. It's a huge industry. So I think our recommendation would be to make a balance and not allow free imports of palm oil in such a way that the Indian refineries will simply become mere packers to defend the branded sales. So our major demand, one demand would be to increase the differential. We are working on that, towards that.
यानी घरेलू इंडस्ट्री को बचाना है, एम्प्लॉयमेंट को बनाए रखना है, तो आपको ड्यूटी डिफरेंस को बढ़ाना चाहिए। ये आईवीपीए के प्रेसिडेंट, इंडियन वेजिटेबल ऑयल प्रोड्यूसर्स एसोसिएशन के प्रेसिडेंट सुधाकर देसाई जी का मांग है। सर, अब अगला सवाल मेरा होगा नेक्स्ट ईयर के आउटलुक को लेकर, क्योंकि हम कारोबारी हफ्ते, मतलब साल के आखिरी कारोबारी दिन में है। ऐसे में क्या लग रहा है 2023, जिस तरह की उथल पुथल हमने 2022 में देखी है या कोविड के दौरान देखी, तेल की कीमतें जिस तरह से बढ़ी, तो 2023 को लेकर किस तरह का आपका आउटलुक है खाने को तेल कर? क्या 2023 में वहां पर महंगाई की दिक्कत नहीं रहेगी, भाव और यहां से नरमी आ सकती है क्या खाने के तेल की कीमतों में?
On behalf of industry, I can say that year of 2022, we want to forget very fast, because the market, as you know, you are regularly following this. I think in the last 6-7 months, the market has dropped by about a whopping 50-60%. So the so-called policy shift everywhere, Indonesia also everywhere, is gradually shifting from consumers to the farmers to the production and things like that. Luckily, our domestic crop, soybean and domestic mustard crop, as I mentioned, is going to be good. However, the crushing margin in soya industry is bad, so the crushing pace is going to be slower. Now I'll come to the global issues pertaining to it right now. Of course, I wish and hope that 2023 would be not as much volatile as the last year was, which was the last lot of volatility was caused by major global policy factors only. And Indonesian ban, lifting, restrictions, Ukraine crisis, all that we have seen. I know major black swan events we have seen in 2022. In 23, as we walk across the global major drivers, to my mind, is number one, I think we have today a situation where palm oil, which was the same price as soya most of last year, is today priced $400 cheaper. So the palm has come back its original factor. So palm supply chain should not be a problem as of now. Number two factor that is major is that Argentina crop is very, very low. As against 55 million tons, it's about 42 million tons. However, there is compensatory growth of a better crop from Brazil. And palm oil, gas oil spread is making the biofuel margins very, very high, which is making the biodiesel margins very high in US. Thereby, the Chicago Board of Trade soya, which dictates the soya market, is also very high. In terms of, and the last but not the least, very important major factor as we walk into next year, Indonesia wants to put more export duties and then divert that money into the biofuel in order to sell about 2 million tons more palm oil into biofuel sector by the implementation of what is called B35. They're talking about B35, B40. That means 35-40% of fuel in Indonesia would be from the domestically produced CPO. That will take the domestic fuel demand, biofuel demand, or CPO demand for biodiesel from a whopping 11.5 million tons, which is much more than what India imports, to a whopping 13.5 million tons. So they've said that they will implement it from February 1st. So if this factor kicks in, these four factors that I've said are very, very supportive to bullish to the market price right now as we walk into the next quarter. On the slightly supportive and bearish side, there are a couple of factors. Number one is the COVID situation and the surge fears. The macro stagnation factors will still remain as a bearish factor. The little bit of uncertainty has kicked in just when we thought that the COVID situation globally is over. Number three, we have sun oil temporarily under a very pressured point right now. Ukraine wants to sell. Traditionally, sun oil is $200-300 higher than soya. Today, it is being offered at $70-80 cheaper than soya because the Ukraine wants to use the corridor and send more and more sun oil, so they are making it cheaper. So these three factors are on the little anchoring kind of a thing. Overall, when I sum up the domestic crop, the bearish signals and key drivers and the bullish key drivers, I would say that in case of palm oil, there is a higher propensity of the prices to go up, which is fine because it is still cheaper by $400. I think it will still be economical. 10-15% hike we can see in Q1. Q2 is very difficult for us to foresee. That's why I restrict only to Q1 of next year. And number two, followed by that, sun oil will get more demand because it's cheap and likely to go up. The last but not the least, soybean oil, I think, will be sideways to supportive and stable. So these are my views on the three major global influencing oils and the key factors behind it. हाँ जी।
को लेकर मिक्स्ड क्यूज है, दोनों तरह के फंडामेंटल्स है। जिस तरह से इंडोनेशिया से अगर वहाँ पर ड्यूटी बढ़ाई गई तो हो सकता है कि वहाँ पर तेजी, पाम तेल की कीमतों में तेजी की संभावना ज्यादा दिख रही है। साथ ही कोविड को लेकर जो चिंता है, ग्लोबल ग्रोथ को लेकर चिंता है, उसका असर डिमांड पर भी दिख सकता है। शुक्रिया सुधाकर साहब, आपने वक्त निकाला हमारे लिए।
Please like and subscribe IVPA channel.